Dunsulin declared, finally naming the
Oh,
price.
there we go.
And technically, the simple possession of a stone violates the bans, the way they have traditionally been interpreted. But I will not deny I am envious, Master Miniland. Jealous.
How am I going to kill myself,
I saw but
though?
a glimpse of their power yesterday, and it was breathtaking. I have been able to think of little else since. To have such forces at your command. He trailed off, shaking his head while he ate a biscuit. It's more invigorating than you can imagine. I agreed, softly. But there are other dangers you should know before you decide to commit. You can overuse a stone.
There we go.
Become dependent upon it, and crave it
That'll
like
work.
a child if you are not careful. The power can drive you mad, as it did with Otto Pratt, and one poor spellmonger's apprentice in Boval who allowed the power of the stone to overwhelm him. He killed his senior apprentice, and we had to destroy the stone, which ended his
I
own
just,
life.
you eat,
I learned a tragic
organic
lesson about
polymer.
Ilianite that day,
It fucking,
which is why I have instituted the oaths I have, Master.
it
So
kills
that
you,
there
like,
is some
immediately.
responsible oversight for their use.
3 of them,
Some would say
and
that
it'll
a
fuck you
common
up.
son who works as a village spellmonger
Okay,
is not the
so
best
now I
burden of
need...
responsibility, he pointed out gravely. Let them say it to my face, I suggested. If they have a compelling argument, I'll hear them out.
Where's my butter
I might
knife?
challenge them to a duel afterward, but I'll hear their argument. And
There it
you
is.
would win, no
Butter knife.
regardless of whether the contest
Alright,
was magical
and
or martial in nature.
do I
He
have
observed with a
small...
chuckle. You have suddenly come into a
I thought I already made a small
Master
stand.
Miniland, and you refuse to be any man's tool. That's a dangerous combination.
Nope.
I don't refuse to be
Alright,
any man's tool.
whatever.
I pointed out. I just want a fair price for my work. If the Duchy wants to contract me to go kill Giovanni, then I'll do it.
What?
If they meet my price. I want the band
Dump
relaxed.
that.
I want Magi to be able to
Take
purchase and inherit property,
that.
and to retain their noble titles.
Drop that.
And I'll distribute Ilianite as I see fit, to further the war. I said reasonably. At least it sounded
Hey.
reasonable to me. But the
Where'd my
oath you
shit
require
go?
binds the recipient to you, personally.
Oh yeah, I dropped it all.
Dunsulin said, shaking his head. Not the Duchy, nor even the 5 Duchies.
Give me that
so
knife
many,
back.
Nor to the sense of it. You, Miniland the Spellmonger, that smacks of the tactics of the Arch-Magi of old.
Tyrone
That kind of oath was
Dermis.
forsworn after the Magocracy fell. I thought it was a good institution. I shrugged. It used
Do
to
I
be
have
the
a small...
Archmage regulated the use of magic, and that if you had a
Where's the
stone,
thatch?
you were his man, in service of the Empire. That system worked well for centuries. Yet you are no Archmage, he countered. I'm still working on that, I quipped, with a small, tight smile. I wasn't being serious at the time. The institution of the Imperial Archmage traced its roots back to ancient Perlin, long
Fiber.
drowned beneath the waves. For the Empire founded by its survivors, the Archmage was at first a hereditary non-entity, then a competing power, and finally an all-important figure of unity. Before he
And
confiscated all the loose
stone.
Ilianite, threw it into the sea and kept just a few pieces for
Crafting.
himself. A few centuries later, the magical aspects of the
Small
office had become
taxidermy.
largely incidental, as the Archmage became sated with temporal power and saddled with the administration of the Empire. They studied magic less and less. Then a bunch of northern barbarians came along and they didn't have the ability to defend themselves. The rest is literally history. But it does beg the question, Master Dunsulin, I continued, that if it is not me who controls who does and doesn't get witchstones, who does? You? Oh, that would be for the Duke to decide, he dismissed, or the Censor General, Master Hatarian. Duke Rard would likely defer to his staff on the subject, I pointed out. That would be you. Who would you hand over a witchstone to? And could you guarantee that it would be used wisely, and in the defense of the realm? Dunsulin looked
Holy shit. Look at my little gangster bitch.
Certainly, plenty of deserving. I'm certain that the political...
Oh, she wants to show you her tits.
His Grace is
I like that one.
usually adept in
So
that
far, that's the winner.
Ah, he heaved a great sigh. I think I see what you mean. He admitted, sadly. Exactly. I nodded. If the
Kind of
task and
athletic.
responsibility is made part of the ducal hierarchy, then the distribution and regulation of Ilianite becomes a political issue.
Look at my body. I dress my guy and put myself in.
Wealth and political connections and favors owed, not merit. Penny had coached me on this part too. I see your
Yeah, your dude is right here in front of your guy. You put a hat on your dude. So how do you do that? Let's find a pose though. We gotta get you a better pose. That one's gay. Heyo. It's like I'm fucking flying Jesus right there. She needs a gun. How can I put a gun in her hands?
I'm going to look you in the eye, test your will, evaluate your abilities, and make a decision based on that. This keeps the issue apolitical. You might be right, agreed Duncelin, as to the matter of the Ilionite. I cannot fault your reason. But then you propose to let Magi buy or inherit property, which makes us an even bigger political issue, when our profession is already reeling from the madness of Oril Pratt. He looked guiltily through a window facing away from the courtyard, into a private garden. Did you know that myself was in line to inherit? He asked.
I like it a lot.
I was not aware of that matter, I said truthfully. It wasn't a huge
Next pose.
but my father was Lord of Green.
What, you want to talk to me?
Southern Ramira. Long ago.
Fucking fight you, bitch. It's like she's biting her own arm.
But at least a prosperous lord of the land.
Look at my tits.
When my powers became manifest, it was decided that
hands down.
to be easily bound.
Jogging.
I was sent to apprentice with old Master
I surrender. I'm Gimp.
It was a great honor.
I think it should be the Jesus pose.
As if he had to convince
Jesus pose flying.
my
Heyo!
sister's husbands divided up my patrimony. Of them, 2 are dead, and their land belongs to strangers. The third.
Or that one. But she needs a gun. I don't know how to do the gun,
And
though.
then, lovely green flower will have left the family for good. He seemed pretty sad about the whole thing.
Or the biting of the own arm. It's pretty good. Kind of like it.
Then that won't happen again. I vow.
This fucking arm tastes good!
As a mage lord. A worthy
Yep.
mage
We're gonna leave her biting her own arm.
for good service. And we wouldn't be a pack of mumbling
It's a good time.
snakes, moving from barony to barony, looking for work most of the time. Think of what we could do with Ilionite and lands to sustain us. I know, he said testily. I've thought of little else since we ended our session yesterday. Do you not think I haven't dreamed of this impossible day?
Look on my body.
And I've read more. I've read accounts of the greatness of the Metropolis.
That's my
of the
stuff.
even greater heights of lost courage.
The only thing you have on your statue guy is the hat. Your body.
And protection for the people. They flew
You
from
still have a
place
bunch
to
of
place
stuff on your
and
body. Ghillie
They could
suit.
speak to each other at a great distance. Their powers seemed
Some other shit.
boundless. Our modern profession
Your tech
grasps
shit.
at the crumbs
Do you want me to
of
dress him in
their
this leather gear?
So you are in favor of me pushing the Duke on this? I think I am, he said decisively. We are all doomed if we don't do something. And what are the chances, do you think, of convincing him? Duncelin pursed his lips over his frosty white beard. He won't make any decision until he has consulted with the Censor General. But he has no real love for the bands, or a loathing for our trade. He's a good leader, and simply wants to rule his realm in peace and prosperity. If this will help him with that, then he will consent. God's help
Like a
him,
beast.
I sigh. I'm serious about my pledge. If my terms are not met, then you can
This
expect to
girl,
see me
she
and
can
my
have
war
my-
magi on the next ship for war. It will take a couple of generations
desert
for the
gear.
dead god to reach that far east. And perhaps by that time the remaining dukes will have better sense. The duke may not allow you and your brethren to leave, suggested Duncelin. The duke may want to rethink that. I
Her
answered,
tits are staying
"I dare
out
say
though.
I could defeat any attack he cared to
So,
throw at me.
ah,
There's not a force that can stand against us.
fucking
No
gangster.
human force, I amended. My war magi and I had stood against the might of
There you
Shilton,
go.
and were lucky.
That's the one we're gonna go with. To look at
He
my
swatted at
tits.
us like bugs. Compared to him, all the knights in the duchies were preferable as foes.
More leather in the
So
vault.
I advised him. Duncelin agreed, I don't think such a course is likely. I feel you have nothing to fear from the Duke.
Leather.
The Censor General may have
Leather.
other ideas. As I said, great
leather.
has come to you. And
Leather
that
and leather.
So, how about you, Master Dunsel? I asked slyly. Are you my friend or my foe? Neither, he said, after a moment's thought. I may not be the most powerful mage in the dungeon, but I am the most politically adept. Of course, I'd like to call you an ally. It's rare that the court mage has an ally in court. But I will not betray my lord for the chance. Your oath only concerns the realms of magic, I pointed out. It merely governs how the stones are to be used and prescribes them from misuse, and invokes your aid or assistance in supporting me in removing stones from those who prove themselves unworthy. And if a mage you've given a stone to does prove unworthy, then the stone is forfeit to me. I make no claim on the mage's life. I merely reclaim the property and give it to another. Those are not arduous promises, he conceded. Mayhap the Duke would allow such an oath if it would grant the duchy a stone. The duchy does not get a stone, I declared. The stone belongs to me. I grant it to an individual, regardless of position or title, and it stays with that individual, regardless of position or title. The duchy cannot take an oath, but you would consider granting a stone to me, personally, the old man asked, his voice quivering. I have long admired your work, and been impressed in how you administer the duchy's magi, I admitted. You are correct. You are not the most powerful or adept mage in the duchy, but you have good sense, political savvy, and the ability to put the needs of the duchy and its people before your own. I would certainly consider granting you a stone. He looked as happy as a kid with a sugar lump. Really? Truly? As a matter of fact, I would accept it as a condition of the deal. If the Duke meets my terms, then you shall take the oath and have a stone. You may use the stone to defend the realm and shore up its defenses, or you can go east and make yourself fabulously rich. I'll leave that to your conscience. But I need the Duke to listen to my plans and do as I say. And it is known he turns to you often for advice. Of course. Of course. He nodded. Then he paused, a biscuit halfway to his mouth. Master Minimum, are you using a witchstone to bribe me for my support? He asked suspiciously. I considered. Yes, actually. That's exactly what I'm doing, I conceded. He thought about it for a moment, and then his biscuit resumed its journey. All right. Consider me bribed. I lust for the power of the stone, as any mage might. And once you have it, you will realize just how pale a lust it was, compared to the fulfillment of desire, I promised. Then you shall have my aid, he granted, nodding. It may be that you will remake the image of the Magi throughout the 5 duchies, Manila. I'll settle for a nice, prosperous little village somewhere where me and my woman can raise our children, unencumbered by Gildani. I shrugged. Truth is, Master Duncelin, I have no personal ambitions beyond that. I don't want to be a court mage, or a war mage, or even a spellmonger, if you want to know the truth. I just want to live my life and pursue my research without being bothered by the weight of the world. Alas, if I get what I ask from the Duke, the thing I want most will be furthest from my grasp. I sighed. I might have been a little dramatic about it. It wasn't untrue, but it wasn't completely candid either. With the power I had and the money I had, I could afford to buy myself into the nobility if I survived. A small rural lordship somewhere, maybe somewhere east. But until the threat of the dead god was abated, I knew I couldn't rest. Not for long, anyway. He had stared into me with those soulless eyes, and that's an image that doesn't fade over time. Well, you have my word. I shall support you, Master Minilin. Duncelin agreed confidently. Now, tell me about these war magi. The rest of breakfast was far less stressful once we had covered business. Duncelin's professional specialty was water magic. The man knew more about how water flows downhill than I knew was possible. His pet project was at one of the Duke's minor estates, loaned to Duncelin to get around the bans, where he had built an intricate water wheel and other hydraulic contraptions to harness the magical power of water. Considering Wilderhall is in the border regions between the northern wilderlands and the southern riverlands, there was water aplenty to work with. And I learned something else very important at that meeting. Water is boring. I excused myself afterward as soon as protocol allowed, and was making my way back to my new quarters.
605, 605, 605.
This one was older.
Fucking fire, ice, and lightning.
Had a golden axe crossed with a silver sword on a
That's a mutated Therizino I made. Yeah, I bred that. That's the prettiest fucking ice wyvern I've got. Yeah, it's a lower level, but I love it. These are my fucking Basilos. There's 2 throwaways, and my really, really good one, Rico's Rocket. Like my dick. It's kind of pink. Like my dick.
Tell me, with which weapons is your lord practicing?
Then there's Bebop. I don't know why I brought him over here, but I love that you fucking skinned him.
Second day, swordplay third day, lances fourth day, maces and axes on fifth day. Swords it is then. I nodded. I had run out of pennies with which to tip him. Oh well.
Put a Basilo on top of the cooking station.
Indeed, I did need to find
You're an idiot.
And I did. After asking 3 or 4 gold tabernet castellans, they directed me to where he was overseeing the laundry. I waited politely before interrupting him as he chastised a group of old women that they weren't getting the clothes clean enough for the fortune he paid them. Master Spellmaker, he said, bowing deeply when he noticed me, what service can I provide for you today? Simple. I need some money. I watched his face contort as a variety of reactions conspired. Better elaborate, I decided, before poor Harren thought I wanted a loan. I left most of my belongings with my apprentices in my haste to get here, including my purse. However, I do have this, I said, taking out a rough leather pouch. I opened it and put a single uncut emerald into his palm. I got this from a Gavan. The spoils of war, I explained. They use them like money, some of the more civilized ones. In any case, I have yet to have the time to find a jeweler to sell them. If you happen to know of one, as it happens, I do, Harren said. I knew he would. My sister's second husband is a journeyman in the trade in town. He does much of the repair work for the ladies of Wilderhall. He will give you a fair price. He nodded. If you handle the matter yourself for me, you may take a quarter of the price, I told him. His eyes opened a little wide. That was a substantial amount.
Oh, I am funny.
Quite understandable, Master Minilan. Harren nodded. I suppose usually your apprentice would handle such matters. I tried to imagine Tyndall, a low-born orphan who was a stable boy when I met him, bargaining with a wealthy jeweler. He's an outstanding apprentice and a potentially powerful war mage, but Tyndall, unfortunately, lacked sophistication in many things. Ordinarily, a guest arrives with a manservant or 2 to deal with such details. My apprentice has better things to do than wait on me, I said, shaking
I like
my
that
head.
one.
But I suppose I should consider employing someone to help out temporarily.
It's Free Willy pose.
Do you have anyone in mind? I do.
Long neck.
Harren nodded. My cousin's
The
boy,
arch.
Hamlin, is without a situation
Or
at
the
moment
teeth open. I
after
like the
his
teeth
last
open.
master died. He is well trained for service, and he seeks employment. If you get enough for that emerald, tell him I want to meet him. Can he use a sword? Master? As well as any townsman. When we are 16, we spend 2 summers drilling with the militia. If I recall correctly, he was
perfect
with a blade or spear. Do you expect that to be a necessity for the position? It might be helpful, I agreed. And I need someone loyal, too. Of course, Master. Hamlin's reputation is pristine, although there was little enough to do for his last master. He took ill not long after Hamlin took his service. Fine. Send him to me this evening. Then I headed back to my room, grabbed my mage blade and weapons belt, and headed clear across the inner bailey to the Tower of Swords, where Count Salgo awaited me. No doubt he wanted to persuade me as well. I wondered if I was going to have to wait on every courtier in the castle. If so, it was going to be a very busy day. Chapter 9. The Terror of Kitzel Hamlet. Greenhill, late summer. I used to think that there wasn't anything worse than the terrifying nightmare of battle. Not all battle. Leading a thunderous cavalry charge into an inferiorly positioned foe, destined to slaughter them quickly and brutally, is actually kind of fun, once you get over the pure gore of it. I mean the other kind of battle. The one where the outcome is uncertain at best, and your hope of survival is purely a matter of luck, skill, and the fickle whims of the gods. The press of flesh and metal and hair and blood, the screams of the wounded, the dying, the calls to mothers in the speech of infants, coming from the mouths of men grown, the curses and prayers and pleas for mercy, the drums and horns and war cries by strangers who want to kill you, all combine into one ghastly symphony from hell that assaults your ears and your mind all at once. Mix that with the stench of fear and vomit and bile and piss and shit and mud and horse and steel and sweat, fire and ash. Battle has a nauseating perfume all its own. It haunts your nostrils for days after, and there's no passage of years that can dim the memory of that.
I'm doing you a nice wyvern, so you have 3. I don't know why, but I feel like 3 is a good number of wyverns to have. Fucking bad things happen, things get lost. Might as well have one. No reason not to, right?
Death from behind by someone you didn't even see was there. Death from your tent mate who mistook you for the foe. Trampled by horses or bashed by maces, sliced by swords or punctured by javelins, from any direction at any time. Not once, as I said, but over and over and over, within the space of 100 heartbeats. Where every time you blink, a new foe could reveal himself, a new danger could manifest, and you are helpless in preventing or avoiding. Where every step you take seems foreordained to inch you closer and closer to your own grisly death. Where the surge of terror compels you to fight madly, or to retreat madly, or to scream madly into the chaos in defiance not of the foe, but of death itself. Where comrades and friends, men you diced and drank and warred with, lie gasping at your feet, their hot blood pouring from their bodies and cooling at your heels, their terror-filled eyes turned toward you in pleading despair.
Yep, that's your new topper. Fucking Diablo.
As you do, that there is nothing that you can do to save them from the abyss, and that you will stand there helplessly while they die, or worse, forget about them in an instant, as you dodge the next volley, next charge, next slash. Where blood becomes as common as rain and screams are as normal as breezes, where rank and position and class have no meaning, and the basic commonality of struggling just to survive the man-made madness puts you and the greatest duke on level, where retreat into drunkenness, madness, or impervious detachment
I like that one the best.
Remedy to the stain of the assault on your memory, where the subtlest reminder of some faraway battlefield a lifetime away turns your blood to ice in your veins and makes old men wake up in the middle of the night, bawling like babies, or screaming like terrified little girls at the memory. I used to think there was nothing worse than that. I was wrong. Kitzel Hamlet was worse than that. It started raining just after dawn the day we set out from Green Hill Castle, and it continued all morning as our column wound its way down the hill and off to the north.
Yeah, you like it?
Toward the fall. I was riding in
I'm
the
glad.
with about 20 scouts.
The Therizino looked good, but the Therizinos are kind of my thing. That's a good topper for my building. This is your castle. You built it, and that's fucking Diablo right there. Fucking El Diablo, which means the devil.
But then the number of obstacles passed, and we thought we were through with the worst.
And Daemon over here.
Then the vanguard went up the ridge on the other side of the fort, over another ridge, and down into the shallow valley where Kitzel Hamlet was.
Yeah, my fucking
In Alshar and Castor,
shit's tight. Look at how many fucking these little guys I've gotten. Look at all their levels, dude.
otherwise it's
Fucking 450, 474, 465, 479, 465, 493. Those are all females. The 465, 465, and then this 469, that's the male. So I just take that male, I turn him on mating, and then bam, 8 eggs. Fucking 2, 6, 8. I've already got 8 eggs. So then we take those 8 eggs, I've already got them in the...
The 4 families had all been related by marriage or blood. I'm guessing that the
Already got them in the fucking dealio. So now I'm gonna pop over to Rag, and I'm gonna go dish those fuckers. Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna dish those fuckers out to. Yeah, and see, and all of these are ones that I fucking hatched and raised. All of these, they all have 100% imprinting. Every single one of them. Fucking, that's my favorite female right here. This red one, that's why I put her over here. That's purple one, pretty much the prettiest ones. We can have them fuck a lot. Just have a bunch of pretty ones, try to get some mutations out of those too. Yeah, that's the highest one, is this bitch, 493. She's the highest. She was a 420 egg, which I guess is the absolute highest level egg that you can get. I've got a bunch of 406s, 385s, 395s, 386s, and like one 373 or something. So they're all like super fucking high level. I love our fucking Griffs. Our Griffs just chilling by our fucking breeding pen. It's so sick. And the fucking Rex, as you come in, it's just a little centerpiece. Yeah, no big deal. We just have a little Rex statue. Fucking good at this game.
From the skulls, the largest of them was perhaps 7. The corpses of the adults were tied to trees.
Will you? God damn it, it's glitching out.
Where they had been forced to watch the proceedings.
There we go.
Except for the 2
Let me out.
They had been nailed to the walls of their huts.
There we go. Fuck you. 6 minutes. This fucker's done.
Knives, rocks, sticks, slivers, fire, heated metal, boiling water. The limbs and extremities.
I just wanted you to have an ice wyvern, so when we do finally decide to go over and hunt ice, because there's a whole icy section over here, you could fucking take an ice wyvern. I don't know why I feel like that's important, but it is. I don't care that it's pink either. I'll fly this one. I don't give a fuck. You can fly the other one. But or we could give it away. I don't fucking care. I just fucking found that egg when I was over on Ragnarok last time, a 462, and I was like, yeah, fuck it. Drop it. See what happens. I was hoping for another sick-ass color one like this, but a high level. But no luck. This thing is by far the sickest fucking ice wyvern I've got. It's fucking dope. Like, this big guy up here is cool, but it's just like a regular old ice wyvern, you know? It's like Sub-Zero is identical to Sub-Zero that I gave Scorps when I had it like on the legitimate official server.
She was held.
Do.
I said sadly, as I touched her face gently.
Our fucking Basilo statue. I love that you said put a Basilo statue on top of our watershed. That's funny. We gotta figure out what we gotta do with all these fucking creatures. If we don't want them, let's just fucking cryopod them or something. They're just clustering up my shit.
I removed the spoon, my heart sinking into disgust and despair. And then they made her.
Fuck it, I'm doing it. Cryopodding it.
My heart in my throat as I carefully removed the spoon. See how her teeth are broken. She tried to resist, but after making her suffer and eating the stew in front of her and the rest, they tried to make her eat it. They killed her for refusing.
Bink.
Take a look at this, Astral murmured, kneeling in the torn-up ground.
You want it? You gotta pull it out.
There were some fates here, not goblins, humans. I'm not a great tracker, but he said, fading off as he brought out his witchstone and cast something over the air. In a moment, he grunted. Yes, definitely 2 humans fought here. They were both wounded. One died. The other was dragged on. Oh, they go where they are? You want them to stay here? I thought I was cleaning up. I thought I was doing good. Alright, fuck it. If you want them there, fuck it. I was just fucking straightening up, you faggot. Fucking bitch tits, motherfucker. If I had to guess, I'd say that there was some kind of gathering here of between 20 and 30 goblins. And a shaman. His marks are all over the place.
Bitch
Not
tits.
one of the low-class kind either. And Urgulnostis. This one knew what he was doing. There wasn't just sport. Azar agreed. There was purpose. Some It's been known to happen. I nodded. But it looks less like they were trying to reanimate them, and more like they were sacrificing them. From the looks of things, the terror must have gone on for hours. Days. That kind of raw emotion in the air can make a lot of things happen. So what was the purpose of all of this? Azar asked. A look of supreme
I just want to fucking kill this thing. I'm so angry.
When it finally came out,
Ah, I'm so angry.
"You're the thaumaturge," Asteral said, standing up and nodding toward me. But I can't
Doobie
turn down the
doo.
spell.
Damn, that's pretty deep right there.
He was right. Azar was great at blasting enemies with
Yeah,
punches,
this is
fury,
definitely
and
my
Asteral
favorite map
more
in
finesse than
base.
just about any war mage I knew.
For
But
sure.
this wasn't
That's
war
why I brought all my best shit over here. I got fucking every nice thing
I'll
that
tell
I
you,
would want.
it might be important.
My 605
I wanted more to
Wyverns.
myself.
My prettiest
I
of
really didn't want to
theories.
look into this for fear of
One of the prettiest, biggest, baddest fucking... All I gotta do is bring over the Gigas. I should bring the Gigas over here, right? I mean, we're not gonna fucking... We're not gonna use them over on Rag. They're just gonna sit over on Rag. They look good on Rag. I mean, I'll jump over to Rag right now. Just to show you and fucking get rid of those eggs. Yeah, this is a loaded up server too. Everyone's in here right now. Fucking faggots.
I closed my eyes as I took out my stone.
I hope you die. I hope you die. I hope you die. Cluster. Cluster. Ugh. Ow.
I was surrounded by the faces of the goblins. I was right. The work was far too patterned and orderly to be the work of your average rural shop. This was well thought out spellcraft, deliberately applied for specific purpose. It was
Clusters.
in its way. The mechanics behind it were elegant, if I understood.
Ragnarok.
And whoever the practitioner was, he had used the seething energy of despair he'd collected in his own extreme. I'd only seen work like this.
I want to go pull a bunch of stuff off of the island, but I can't because I'm not on the island anymore.
I probably knew how to interpret it as well as anyone. Despite its
I guess I could log in as you
this wasn't a simple
and fucking go do it.
There was greater purpose to it. And as I studied it more closely, I noted that it wasn't a single spell, but three separate ones. Even more interesting. Holding the images in my mind, I cast the Mortein's Discovery Appraisal spell, which separated the three sets of symbolic energy from each other. I took them chronologically to help better establish what happened here. I owed the people at Kistol Hamlet that much. The first one was a seeking spell of some sort, I determined, but unlike any seeking I'd ever seen. But then I'd never seen a seeking on that scale before. Never one that powerful and obscure. It had required a lot of force to implement, I could see, and the objective of the seeking, while obscure, was clearly something of power or value. The lingering knot of magical forces that remained imprinted on reality was not something I could easily untie, not without knowing more of Giovanni magic. So, a seeking. They were looking for something. The second spell was far more powerful.
Oh, Rock Drake putting in work.
According to the discovery spell, I could see that it was offensive in nature. But
Shit, everything around me is putting in work.
emotingly enforced and amplified. I feared what I would find if I tried to interpret it, and wasn't confident that the interpretation would be particularly accurate. But then I realized that I was just coming up with excuses why I shouldn't do it, instead of just doing it. I kept the discovery spell in
Check it out.
as the standard thaumaturgic divine, known as the second interpreter of gods, one of the ancient Magi of Perm. It examines the essential.
Look at these fucking big bastards.
For those taking notes, his first interpreter, elemental magic, And his third is for the urgent. Yeah, you're probably right not to take notes. It took a moment for the spell to begin to work, but then it would have taken hours for me to cast it without hearing it. A cascade of glyphs, specially created by the Arc Magi to represent human emotions, appeared in a circle in front of me.
No.
Fear,
Donkey.
terror, panic, agony, helplessness, sadness.
Look at how awesome I've got these guys stacked in here. These guys crisscrossed.
Hate,
Pretty sure that's my favorite way to stack them anywhere
hopelessness,
now,
sorrow,
is
lament,
crisscross like that.
despair. Despair most of all. It pulsated in
Automated turret just killed the pterodon.
palpable than even rage or terror.
But
Despair,
yeah, those are all my females.
but the others were
Those are my
powerful in their
females.
own right.
You know those are my
It was a litany
males.
of pestilent emotions,
This fucking place is back up and running.
combined in one oppressive miasma. It was the selected emotions
guess I
from
should
those poor victims of Hitzon,
Grab
enlarged by magic and projected into the
a
other
couple
half
of
the spell.
those.
I needed yet a third spell for that, and I didn't feel like being reminded of what I was handling here. The dying thoughts and feelings of these people, any more than I wanted to handle their tortured bodies. So I dropped the interpreter and used a more analytic spell for the other portion. I suppose I could have held on to all three, but that was just work I didn't need to be doing right now. The analytic spell told me that the emotions, having been bottled like wine and amplified, had then been poured out into the psychic atmosphere around us in a sophisticated sending spell. The goblins were, quite literally, making us feel that. There was a lot of warfare potential for that. I'm good at blue magic, shorthand for emotionally based or charged spells, like sex magic, and I'd used such runes exhaustively against the Gavanian Boval during the siege. Terror is an excellent ally, but a treacherous foe. Despair even more so. A couple of well-placed runes could get an enemy commander or an important officer off his game enough to make bad decisions, and a demoralized enemy is hard to compel to fight. But I'd never seen anything like this. My runes were standard, similar to the glyphs I'd seen from their sending. Rage is a pretty easy emotion to manifest after all. We've all experienced it. It's almost comfortable. Fear is another easy to understand emotion, since everything more advanced than a slap can feel it. But these were far more particular. This wasn't just fear. It was fear for the lives of my family, and fear for my life, boiled down and distilled to its brutal essence. It wasn't just sorrow. It was the sorrow of watching your babies being boiled alive for the entertainment and nourishment of your captors. It wasn't just anguish. It was the anguish of, oh God. It was the anguish of being given the choice of either watching your beloved child's limbs be eagerly bludgeoned by one of those wicked iron mallets that Gavani favor, starting with the fingers and toes and working up to the pelvis, and then being thrown into boiling water to suffer even further before they expired, or being allowed to spare her that horrible fate by bashing in her skull yourself before she was cooked, brutally murdering your child out of a sense of motherly love. It was that specific kind of anguish, an emotion so raw, so powerful, and so foul in its inception that it washed across my mind like a putrid high. I vomited uncontrollably for a few minutes after that. I almost didn't continue, because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be alive, after understanding what the purpose of the sacrifices here had been. They had been designed to elicit just that kind of anguish and despair, so that it could be captured and broadcast like a handful of seed. It was the most vile and loathsome feeling I'd ever encountered. I understood, finally. Part of the reason behind the generally lackluster defense of Alshar was due to this spell, and others like it, being forced into the subconscious of every man, woman, and child for hundreds of miles around. It infused the very ether, tainting every thought and every action without us even realizing it. Oh, most magi have basic protections against that kind of intrusion, but they rarely extend it beyond themselves. Too much work and, before Irianite, far too much energy. Even with Irianite, the power expenditure needed for a spell this size would be staggering. That's why the shaman had to use the pain and anguish of his victims to fuel the spell, as well as provide the inspiration. Even with his stone, without a direct link to his bloody divinity, he'd have to find the raw power someplace else. And the effects were clear. I'd seen the reflection of these emotions on the face of every refugee on the road, every peasant cowering inside castle walls, every lord realizing he faced the end of his days and the end of his life. It would be nearly impossible to live within range, and I had no clear idea how large an area that was, and not have those thoughts unless you had the empathy of a stone. Having that in the back of your mind, day in, day out, haunting your dreams without you knowing, it produces its own sort of terror, the kind that leads to abandoning determined thought and descending to the most primal depths of desperation and despair. And when your enemy is already terrified and full of despair, your battle is half won. Weakened and shaken, I took a breath and resolved to press on, spitting the last bits of bile out on the ground. I still had one more spell to dissect. I owed it to these people to finish this job. The final spell was the most direct and specific of the three. It was also the simplest to fathom. A directional spell, primed for one area, and saturated with but one motivation: panicked hesitation. It took me 3 tries to triangulate the target of the spell, based on multiple sightings taken at different angles. I was pretty certain where it was supposed to go the second time, but I wanted to be certain. Verone. They were targeting Verone, where Duke Lenguin was gathering a force and marshalling his resources, while Tudri lay besieged and the Wilderlands burning. Panicked hesitation. That perfectly described all of the contradictory orders and reports that were coming out of Verone, while terrified peasants were being drilled by sergeants and knights were holding tournaments. Tournaments! In an effort to prepare for the coming battle, whenever Lenguin got around to it. The dead god and his shards. No, call this one a priest. This was beyond simple shamanic magic. Had been raining doubt and hesitation, fear and insecurity down on the minds and hearts of Al-Shah's leaders, far beyond the capability of the Al-Shari court mage to defend against, if he even had the ability. This was a powerful bolt, decisively cast, and it brought new perspective to the war. While I had been dithering about troop movements and enemy positions and political considerations and how many pounds of sausage we needed, the goblins had been poisoning the very air we breathed, the very thoughts in our heads, without our realizing. It was a ghastly use of an elegant piece of magic. I was impressed and appalled at the same time, and the implications were clear. Duke Lenguin's army would not march anywhere, as long as he and his men were subjected to this miasma of doom and uncertainty. And that wasn't even the worst thing. The worst thing was that this crafting, this murderous sorcery, had the feel of a part of a greater whole. I suddenly imagined scenes like Kitsop happening all over northern Al-Shah, with rural villages turned into ghoulish manufactories of terror and despair, their product fueling a concerted effort to turn any organized resistance against the Dark God into a terrified and panicked mob of desperate, hopeless souls. I allowed the spells to fall, collected my thoughts, and stood finally. It was late afternoon now, and I could see the men in the woods were restless. I couldn't blame them. I waved Azar and Asteral back over and put my stone away. Well, I know what they were doing. I even have a fair idea of how they did it. I might even have a glimmer of a notion about how to counter it. At least where it most needs to be countered. But all of that's secondary, I sighed, as I pulled on my riding gloves. Tell off 10 men to dig a pit for these poor wretches, so that they may lay at rest and find what peace they might. Put every last bone, every last shred of skin in it, and bury it. We'll proceed ahead to the Temple of Huin, and send a priest to do what cleansings he can. Perhaps the gods can purify this tragic waste of life. I know I can. Are you all right, Captain? Azar asked, concerned. He was looking at me funny. I'm fine, I said, leading them away from that stone. That sad little stone where one by one they were brought, beaten, sliced, and bled. Have the rest of the van go well north of this spot. I don't want any of the men to see this horror. Bearing witness to this will do nothing but enrage them. and make them prone to her. It's enough that we've seen. Enough, Captain? Asked Asteron, his head cocked. I'd say it's more than enough. When we get to Tutri, he looked more serious, angry, and more anxious than I'd ever seen him. Then there will be vengeance enough for us all. I agreed quietly. I just wish Master Duncelin was here, so that he could see just how terrible a goblin's witchstone can be. Come on, let's move on to the temple. If ever I've needed the purification of the divine, it's after putting myself through that. Azar nodded, and began shouting orders to the Hell Riders as he motioned the trooper who was holding my horse forward. It was only after I'd mounted Traveler and we left Kitson that I realized why everyone had been looking at me strangely. Tears had been streaming down my face constantly since I'd finished the spell. Chapter 10. Exercise with the Lord Marshal. Rutherford, Midsummer. I never thought I'd hold the sword, right up to the day when I finally did. And I'm not going to claim that I was an actual talent, from the moment I took one in hand. In fact, according to my instructors at War College, my early attempts at the noble art of steel were laughable at best. I am not an actual swordsman, but I am a good student. I had to be, back during my days at the academy. The swordmaster at the academy was a nominal presence, a drunken knight with a flamboyant personality and a taste for young horses. He was there mostly to appease the nobility's burning need to stab at each other in adolescence, and to teach us peasants enough basics so as not to embarrass ourselves. Because while spellmongers and court magi cannot hold lands, they can be challenged to duels. It has happened. I had a passing interest in swordplay, but I never thought it would come in handy, and the swordmasters smelled funny, so I went back to my books. Most of my peers were disdainful of the sword as a means of defense, or had long ago mastered its use under private tutors. I wasn't. When I got drafted and I realized that my life might depend on my ability to whip 3 feet of steel around, I realized I had to study. So I did. For the first few weeks of War College, I spent what little free time I had in the yards, sparring with anyone who would teach me a thing or two. Luckily, nearly every older soldier there was eager to teach all the little tricks and techniques they'd picked up over the years, and I devoured them. I discovered that sparring was fun, learning how to stand, how to hold a blade, how to balance, how to strike, how to recover, how to pound. None of it has anything to do with how high-born you were. I went from laughable to respectable, and I could have stopped, but when there's nothing else to do around camp or on ship or in a garrison, you train and you learn. I would claim that it was the essential aesthetic of the weapon and the purity of the dance of death it weaves in the hands of a passionate artist that drove me to the pursuit, but that would be incorrect. At the time, I knew I was going into the jungles of Faris, and I was terrified I would fall apart like a besotted peasant militia and piss myself before getting killed the first time I was in combat. So I studied, and I got better. A lot better. Part of it is the magic, of course, and part of it is pure swordsmanship. There are plenty of war magi whose skill with a mage blade is better than mine. My comrade and colleague Azar, for instance, can do things with steel I've never seen another swordsman do before. He has really long arms, which helps. I've heard there are Eastern war magi who will fight 4 opponents at once in practice with those incredibly thin Eastern mage blades, and best them all, without even using as much as a cantrip. I'm not one of those either. Indeed, without magic, I'd say I'm as skillful as your average enthusiastic squire or competent man-at-arms. But once you add magic into the equation, things get a lot better. I was counting on that. Otherwise, I was going to get my ass kicked, I could tell. The clang and clank of armor and swords and shields all banging around told me where the practice yards were without asking. Even one man in armor makes a terrible noise just walking across the room. Put 100 of them on a yard at once, and the noise is nearly deafening. The Lord Marshal was in his practice armor, well beaten and hacked, and he was entertaining 2 opponents at once. Squires, it looked like. They had that eager, puppy look, a mixture of pride and fear and pure confidence. They had probably been practicing swordplay since they were 7, but they were nothing compared to Count Salgo. He was good, as in stop whatever you're doing because you can't take your eyes off the way the man used the blade. That kind of good. Salgo had complete control of that fight from start to finish, and he was brutal to his students. He slapped away their swords and made them stumble and pushed them off balance, and did all those other things an experienced swordsman learns how to do. Meanwhile, he yelled obscenities at them for their failures in a voice loud enough to be heard over the rapids, clear across the yard. I watched for a while when, despite his clear mastery of the sword, a dozen casual conversations in yards like this over the years came back to me. Every swordsman has weaknesses that can be exploited if you have the wit to see them. I tried to find Salvo's, and it took a while. I noted that Count Salvo couldn't seem to keep his left foot on the ground when he advanced, and that he cocked his shoulder up a bit too far before he threw a blow overhead. Other than that, his technique was near flawless in my estimation. He validated it a moment later, when he disarmed one squire and had sent the other one on his armored backside when he was off balance. Then he helped them up and spent 5 minutes explaining exactly why they had screwed up and what to do to fix it. Then he got a drink of water and noticed me standing there. "Good morrow, Master Spellmaker," he said pleasantly enough. "Thank you for attending." "I am at your service, Lord Marshal," I said, bowing formally. I was still wearing my silly hat. I'd forgotten to take it off, and it almost fell off when I bowed. "What do you require?" "You are a war mage," he grunted, nodding towards Slash's scabbard in my hand. "Trained and certified," I acknowledged. "Then you know which end of a sword to hold. Good. Armor up. Let's see how well you fight. Single sword," he added. The feeling I was about to get my ass kicked returned. I nodded, as if nothing would please me more in the world than follow the squire who brought me to the armourer. Not armourer, I should say. All of his swords and axes were blunted. Even the maces were made of weighted wood, not steel or iron. He helped me into a set of practice armour and allowed me to look over his weapon. I finally selected a blunted iron sword near the size of Slasher, though it wasn't curved or nearly as...
God damn it!
The balance was decent, but not outstanding. It was a few inches too short, too. Close enough. After I got the padded helm strapped on, I waddled back out to the yard, where Count Salgo was putting on his gloves menacingly.
Well, if I'm gonna wait for one, I might as well wait for two.
But that should just demonstrate the competence of this man at his craft. Count Salgo's fingers were more ruthless than most men's steely gaze. I wasn't afraid. I'd gotten smacked around a practice yard before. I'd gotten my ass kicked before. I wasn't expected to win, not without magic. In fact, winning against him, even with magic, might be a bad thing, relatively speaking. "Defend yourself," he said, taking a guard position as soon as I got my helm on. He was using a hand and a half sword, a kind of all-purpose knight's blade usable on horseback or on foot, at home or abroad. He held it steadily in one meaty fist, making tiny circles in the air with his blade as if to taunt me. I didn't rise to the taunt. I'm far more of a defensive swordsman than an offensive one. Instead of carving away merrily like many knights I'd seen, I tend to be cautious, sensible, and sturdy, until my opponent makes a mistake. Then I strike. Or at least that's what I try to do. Whatever guile I might have at swords wasn't impressing Count Salgo. He slapped my blade away 2 or 3 times, commenting that I wasn't attacking aggressively, while knowing full well that being that aggressive was going to put me at his mercy. Instead, I chased his sword point through the air with the tip of my own, until he got fed up and played into me. Now, when you think of swordplay, no doubt you're thinking of the delicate interplay of blade on blade, where technique is paramount. That holds true in some circles. Indeed, in the East, they rarely use a blade any other way. But Count Salgo was a husky knight and a legendary warrior, on the tournament fields or in the battlefield. When he indulged in swordplay, there were no half-speed strikes or cold blows. My wrist and shoulder stung with the impact of his steel on mine. That first pass he pressed my blade harder than I'd ever seen a man do one-handed, to the point where I had to focus to keep him from pushing through my guard. Just in time for him to reverse the force of his push, allow me to force my own blade out of position without his resisting it, and then a half step, a turn, a flick of the wrist, and my helm rang out like a temple bell on a festival day. Hard, that is. I caught a wicked chuckle from him as he completed the pass, and I silently cursed myself for falling for the trick. I allowed him a second pass, where I didn't fall for the same trick twice, thus demonstrating that I had at least half a brain in my head, and even managed to escape without him landing a blow. After that, we circled each other, both studying to see any weakness. There wasn't much on his part, but then I saw that shoulder dip, almost imperceptibly, and I managed to whirl around and block a strike that would have removed my kidneys had we been in earnest. My wrist felt numb at the force of the blow, and I cursed. Salvo chuckled and kept going. Well, you aren't embarrassing yourself, at least, the knight said.
Go on.
Using one hand on his sword. It stung a little more because it echoed what I was already thinking. I've seen belted knights who would have done worse. He tried a feint as he distracted me with his words, but I noted that shoulder going down again, and I managed not to be there when his sword whished through the air. Well done, he said, encouraging me. If you're about warmed up now, Lord Marshal, we can begin, I said. He snickered at that, and nodded. I was hoping that wasn't your best work, he said, his face full of pity. I could have just stayed there and let him hit me until he got his frustrations out, but I didn't think that Count Salgo was that kind of man. You learn a lot about a man's character by how he uses a blade. I got the feeling he wanted to see me at my best, and truthfully, I was only at my best when I used magic. As my blade swam through the air, I mentally felt for my stone and brought forth a tendril of energy, and fed it to a spell I had hung for just such an occasion. I triggered the working with a softly spoken word, and suddenly everything was in slow motion. Count Salgo's blade was sailing for me, making a blatant arc of steel in the air, one I was easily able to dodge by stepping down. I waited for the point of the blade passing under my chest, and then stepped in as Salgo became slightly unbalanced. I wasn't going to let that advantage. I grabbed his wrist and employed just the slightest amount of pressure to encourage his body to follow his command. When I was certain he was off balance, I carefully aimed for his now exposed helmet and struck him twice on the left temple and once on the right, as he fell to the ground. Then I took 2 steps to the side, turned to face him, and brought my sword up into a showy sort of guard that the Eastern swordsmen fancy to impress girls. Then I dropped the staff, and Salvo fell on his face. I give him credit. He rolled back to his feet in full armor a lot sprightlier than I would have believed. He was grinning, too, which I wasn't sure was a good thing or a bad thing. Ah, he said, at last, the vaunted war magics. It's a poor substitute for a lifetime on the cards, I said diplomatically. Any advantage in war is an advantage you take, if you value victory, he quoted. I remember hearing that back in War College. I forget who said it. So, if you can use magic to best me, pray do so, Spellmonger. That's Master Spellmonger, I said, grinning back at him. For a moment, we were 2 kids playing in the temple guard's sandbox. I suddenly saw a much different side of Salvo as I was trying to kill him. I re-energized the war spell and watched everything slow down. He took 2 long steps to close the gaps between us, his sword halfway thrust forward. A less experienced fighter might have taken that for a potential opening, but I knew that if I tried to counter the strike with one of my own, Salgo would have a counter move that was likely to make me look stupid. Instead, I waited patiently for his second step and his lunge, and I just stepped out of the way while the sword passed next to me, his form nearly perfect. It seemed almost a shame to let him stumble like that, but his body was completely open and he was right. You don't give up an advantage like that. I hit him 7 times before I assumed my own high guard position, both hands on the helmet, laid perfectly parallel to the ground. weight on my forefoot. Toe of my hind foot just barely touching the sand of the arm. Then I collapsed, fell again. Gonzalo sprawled into the sand of my feet. The hush fell over the arm, which is saying something when you're talking about 100 men in steel armor. Well, God! Salgo cried, springing to his feet. Any one of these laggards would have been impaled by that. Your Excellency, I did use magic, I pointed out. You used your damned head, is what you did, he corrected, dusting off his pants. One of my boys would have tried to meet that thrust with a counter thrust, to show off how strong he was. Or worse, would have missed it altogether. You had the sense to move out of the way, and not let my attack ruin your own. That, spellmonger, is far more important in swordplay than how pretty you look in your armor. Hear that? He bellowed, loud enough for everyone in the yard to hear. This mage just did something that none of you maggots have been able to do in 3 years. Pay bloody attention. After that, we got along famously. I can't really blame Count Saldo for his low regard for war magi. War magi cost like mad compared to an infantry soldier or even a cavalry soldier, and it was hard to see a return on that investment usually. Ordinarily, the magical core of an army is used more in a support function, keeping insects at bay, defensive spells around camp, maybe a little straying for reconnaissance. As often, we were employed to strengthen castle walls with various charms, and charged dearly for it. Only a few, like me, strapped on a mage blade and actually fought it back. And some of us are just war magi because we're belligerent and talented and like to hurt things. Not me, but some. Salgo's association with war magi hadn't been positive, I knew, because he had sailed with the whiny lot with the Armada, the ones who got to fight the mad mage's vicious magical sea storms as they attempted a mass landing. Weather magi are notoriously emotional. My group had been a little town. We'd walked every step of the Parisi Peninsula through unfriendly tribesmen, Parisi pickets, the jungle, and the mountains. Those of us hardy enough to survive the brutal trek attacked the city from the rear in a bloody assault. We were far more adept with active combat war magic, not the passive stuff like fortification spells and weather magic that rarely fails. But as we sat there, helms in the sand, a page bringing us both cool water to drink, I showed him I was as much a soldier, albeit not as good a one as he, as I was a mage. I commented about seeing his shoulder drop, and he grinned and nodded. He pointed out how I dragged my left toe while advancing, and that was dropping the point of my blade by at least an inch every other step. After discussing technique, reminiscing about the war, and covering the finer points of the differences between a war blade and a mage blade, he finally got around to what he wanted to talk to me about in the first place. Sir, Miniman, he began, after drinking half a flask of water in one gulp. All of what you said in council, how much was true? Every word, my lord, I assured him quietly, and if you weren't properly frank, then I should let you know that I likely mitigated my observations for the sake of the ladies present. The truth, we are all in terrible danger. Every man, woman, and child who draws breath. This is not an enemy like we've seen before. The dead god cannot be bribed, appeased, or parleyed with. He can only be fought, and if the gods will it, someday destroyed. And you are the man for that task? He asked skeptically. I know of no one better, my lord. If you do, then pray summon him and I'll go home to my work. He grunted thoughtfully. That's how I feel about this whole job, he confided in a low voice. I took it in the wake of the Farisi victory because I thought it would be a way to lead troops in battle and command respect and gain honor. If I had it to do, I would have stayed on my estate and enjoyed life there. I couldn't really believe that about Salgo, but I nodded anyway. He was a man of action. It was bad enough when all I had to do was sort through the plains of inheritance and the recompense from the campaign. Now you bring me an implacable foe and dire danger, and a Dutch you're still recovering from, that is. Perhaps you should look at it as an opportunity to die gloriously in battle, Excellency, I offered. That made with laughter. "I like you, Spellmaker," he said finally. "I don't give a horse's hindquarters about the birds. I don't care if my neighbors and vassals are knights or wizards, so long as they keep their oaths and pay their tribute and keep to themselves. I don't care if you can own property and be a noble. All I care about is whether you can help me win this war ahead of us. I will do everything in my power, Excellency, if His Grace agrees to my terms." "He's leaning that way," Salgo acknowledged. "The Duchess is in favor of your proposal," he said, with a note of surprise. "And her voice counts for more than most on the council. Yet Rard has always been a duke who prefers his own council the best. Assuming he approves and places me in command, then what forces could depart immediately?" "I have a few ideas," he admitted. "As much care needs to be given to their compliments as their number. I could gown you with peasant levies or spearmen from the city militia, but I'd rather hear your recommendations." I knew a test when I saw one. I shook my head. "I'd rather go alone. I need horsemen, at least 1,000, lightly armed and ready to fly, and as many archers as I can get who can move quickly and know their business. Not crossbowmen. I've seen too many who can't repair their own equipment in the field. Fine for clearing battlements or repelling invaders from crenellations, but nearly useless in open battle," he agreed. "I have seen eastern companies of mercenaries who were well accomplished in combat," I pointed out, "but they were trained and well armed and armed, and they were used to fighting other mercenaries, not Gavani tribes. These Westerners, better give them a bow. The Gavani use them, and slings and javelins, but their range is far shorter than the Wilderlands bows. Oh, and they don't know how to bomb." Salgo nodded appraisingly. "That is useful. And heavy horse? You don't wish for knights? No thundering charges? Lances glinting in the sun? They'd be worse than useless for what we go to do."
I'll let you level it up.
The sand at my feet. "Each one needs twice as much fodder, since they bring 2 knights, so as not to tire their war horses, not to mention a squire or two, a couple of pages, and possibly a blacksmith or other trusted retainer. This means a wagon and 2 more oxen to feed. If I am to make it into Alshar in time to do any good,
A rock golem?
travel quickly
Yeah. Fuck yeah, get a rock golem from over here.
and keep moving at night.
There are all kinds of rock golems over by where we get the eggs for the dinos.
I need fighting.
All
So no
kinds.
valiant, noble knights in shining up. Salgo agreed. "You do have a brain, Spellmaker. Most heavy cavalrymen are too high-born to serve under a commoner, much less a mage, willingly. And every point you make is valid. That was the problem with the assault on Paris. Every noble house from heretofore wanted their...
And we can change these out. I just put them there because I might as well skin them, right? Fuck it. But the griffins are still inside the platform. All you gotta do is click on it, and it'll switch it out.
To employ mercenaries for various duties which local lords are sometimes unsuited for, such as
Cool.
tension between houses, or probing Remir's borders without looking suspicious. There's a particular company I have in mind, who is near at hand. Light horse, spears and swords, 500 strong.
Look at those fucking guys.
Used to hard work. The Hellhounds,
Beautifully
a
placed.
red stallion, their stamp.
Come on, stop.
Is their captain. I've heard of the Hellhounds. I nodded.
It's glitched out.
That was true. I just couldn't remember what I'd heard about them. And
It's glitched out.
there's a small town, upriver,
It won't let me down.
and the Utkan River, called...
Am I at the top yet?
It's a free
No.
city of the Wilderlands, 1 inch charter away from the Utkan
Stop.
war about 50 years ago. They've stayed
God
there
damn it.
because they maintain a port of archers
It's fucking
to raise their
glitched.
frontiers. Free yeomen, mostly, and some burgers' sons. Hardy folk. They owe a month's service to the duchy by their charter, and another month for every year they aren't used. They owe 3 years. So, for 3 months, they'll be dukes' family.
Dude.
Better yet, their town's prosperity has led to them being mounted on the local courses, some as richly as any knight. 500 Nairobi we could safely muster on short notice. Perhaps 1,000, if we encourage them
Yep.
to go.
Just fucking kicked me.
2 companies. The mercenaries known as the Warbands. They fly a Raven standard, and the main company of the Orphans Band. The Birds are heavy infantry, used to long marches and garrison duty, but stout as ever. 500, led by Sir Pendleton of Kefir.
Just send me to the fucking moon. And then kick me.
Excellent sentries and pickets. They recruit their numbers exclusively from temple orphanages. Many are Al-Shari, so they'll know the country.
Many are Al-Shari. Al-Shari. You know what I'm saying to you.
Supply and take care of all the needs of the detachment. And they fight. A little rough, but dependable. Well worth the coin. Their standard is a red boar's head. Don't ask me why. And their captain is old.